So recently I uploaded a video called Why Do I Use a 1440p on my PlayStation 5 and why do I switch to output of 1440p, which is 2560, I'm sorry, 2560 by 1440, 60 hertz. Um, and it's really interesting, like reading some of the comments, um, how people are so like focused on what Digital Foundry says that they're not even willing to at least try it for themselves. You know, clearly I have explained that there isn't going to be just listen, anybody who knows anything about the GPU hardware understands you cannot get a boost in performance by switching to 1440p. No one is saying that. That's why we have PlayStation 5 Pro with a better GPU that has more horsepower to give you that boost. What I was simply indicating is when I switch from 4K, which is 3840 by 2160, to 2560 by 1440 output, I've noticed that I was getting a little bit better a latency. I was referring to latency. I wasn't referring to performance. Nowhere did I ever say, ooh, you're going to get this amazing performance, right? Boost in performance. That would be idiotic and moronic for me to say that. What I was simply saying is I was experimenting a little bit. I was switching between 4K and 1440p. Why not? It's available. It's supported. Why not give it a try? And when I was doing that, in doing so, I noticed that I was getting a little bit better latency. I felt that my controller was lighter in the response time. It wasn't as heavy as it was on the 4K response time. I'm not saying that there's something wrong with the 4K output response time and latency. I'm simply saying that I felt like that it was a little bit lighter, that the response time was much quicker. And that's what I have experienced. But the whole point that I'm trying to make here on this video is reading the comments on my previous video just made me realize how people have become like some sort of cult following individuals to Digital Foundry. Now, Digital Foundry, yes, they deal with resolutions, upscaling, scaling, performance, GPU, graphics, CPU, everything video gaming, resolution, performance stuff. And they have the equipment to do so, to check all that, right? I'm not saying that they're incorrect in what they're saying. What I'm simply saying is they also have their own opinions. All right? They're like a bunch of dudes sitting in a room having their own opinions regarding 1440p, right? And they had a Q&A not too long ago, a video where they were being asked, does 1440p, switching to 1440p helps in any way with a boost of performance? First of all, that was a stupid question. Whoever asked that question doesn't understand anything about how GPU works, how the hardware GPU CPU thing works. Obviously, everybody who understands how GPU CPU works understands switching the resolutions doesn't do anything for your performance. Okay. What it does, in my opinion, when you switch to a lower resolution, you get better latency. Okay? Because the game and the TV screen and the console doesn't have to scale and render more pixels on that source output. Now it will only render a certain amount of those pixels, right? 2560 by 1440. It's still going to upscale to 4K, but it doesn't have to scale the output of 8.3 million pixels to that source, which is the console source. Your TV will upscale to the 4K, but at least you will have a less of a bottleneck for your latency. So that's what I have experienced. Now, I'm not sitting here telling everybody, ooh, you need to go ahead and you need to try 1440p. It's the best thing of all time. I'm not doing that. What I'm simply saying to people is, why not give it a try? Why not at least try it, give it a test, and see for yourself, right? Um, I have tested some games uh, myself. Even Death Stranding 2, I have tested it. When I switched to 1440p, I noticed a much better latency. I didn't notice any boost in performance, obviously, because that only happens if you have a powerful enough GPU to do that, and that's why we have PlayStation 5 Pro. But I did notice that the latency is a little bit better. Even on my user interface, I notice how fast, responsive uh, everything is. And that's what I have experienced. But the point I'm trying to make here is what I find very interesting is that people are not even willing to give this a try, to at least try it, you know, and see for yourself, right? See for yourself. Why not just give it a try and see for yourself? They're not even willing to do that, and I find that very interesting. That they're just willing to listen to Digital Foundry's opinion. Digital Foundry says it's a placebo effect, therefore you shouldn't try it. You shouldn't use it. You should just forget about it. It's a placebo. That's what it is. It's a placebo effect. Just forget about it. I find it very interesting how people are so hesitant to try anything themselves. You know, and what do you got to lose by trying something out yourself? Listen, um, Digital Foundry has the right to their opinions. They can have their opinions all day long, dude. I don't care. But the fact that you're not even willing to see for yourself, hey, am I getting a little bit of a better latency here? At least to try it for yourself, I find it very short-minded. Uh, I just don't. I just don't understand the mindset of somebody not willing to even like try it out for themselves. Oh, she's asking me some more questions. ADC. Oh God, I'll never solve this. Forget it. I can't. I'll never solve this question. Thank you, Kojima. But anyway, like my whole point was um, on that video. It's for you guys to try it out for yourself. I'm not like advocating people to to play in 1440p. I'm simply saying if it's available, why not give it a try and see for yourself? Why just listen to Digital Foundry? Okay, Digital Foundry says they tested 99 out of 100 games and they see no boost in performance. Of course, Digital Foundry should have known that there isn't going to be any boost in performance by lowering the resolution. That's not how the hardware works on the consoles. They should know that. It's not a PC, it's a console hardware. It's different. What I'm simply saying is the latency. I noticed that the latency has been better, at least for me. That's all I'm saying is the latency. What is the latency? It's the response time between me moving this controller and then how quickly it shows up on the screen. That's what I'm talking about. Okay? And the fact that some of you are not even willing to try this, why not? Why not give it a try? So anyway, I think that's all I have in this video. I don't know what else to say. I was going to show you the Death Stranding too, but there was a quiz question by Rainey. Um, so, look, I want to end the video by saying this. Guys, if you want to listen to Digital Foundry, go ahead and listen to them. Um, you know, but why not try it out for yourself? Now, I agree with Digital Foundry that yes, there won't be any boost in performance. Of course. Let's just clarify that here, so there's no confusion. There is no boost in performance switching to 1440p. That's why you have a PS5 Pro. That's the whole point of PS5 Pro. But I did notice that the latency is better. And why not play in 1440p upscale to 4K with a better latency? Why not? Why not at least try it? That's all I'm saying. Why not at least give this a try? And look, man, if you're not happy, if you're not satisfied, dude, you can always switch back to 4K, right? But at least you owe it to yourself to try it, to see if you can get a better, lower latency. You know. Latency is everything in video gaming. The response time, right? You want that best possible response time, don't you, right? So anyway, that's all I'm saying, guys. That's all I'm saying. Give it a try yourself. And if you don't notice any latency between 1440p and 4K, all right, cool. Well, then you don't notice it. But at the very least you should do is give it a try. That's all I'm saying. Give it a try. And see for yourself.